Let's bring in Elise Badoy, the head of EMEA Equity Research at Citi. Elise, thank you so much for joining us on the show today. Well, we're watching European banking stocks very, very closely. And I know that European banking stocks at the beginning of this year were a sector that many investors were keen to get involved in because of the cheap valuation. It was a cyclical play, an easy play to play for recovery in the second half of the year. And we are beginning to see a bit of a re-rating this morning on back of this idiosyncratic news, I would call it. Would you say that the sector as a whole could potentially be at risk? Is positioning overextended there?
Well, good morning, Jumana, and thank you for having me on the show. So I think, when we look at the banking sector, absolutely, I mean, it's been one of the key value plays in this rotation. And, obviously, while indices have not shown a lot of volatility, you've had a lot of move under the surface. And the key since the vaccine announcement has been this huge value rotation out of growth into value. So I think if we take a step back and we look at what drives that value rotation is really the global economic recovery as vaccines are rolled out. We have some delays in the vaccine, but we still expect that recovery to happen. And so our position and our strategists would still believe that actually there's much to be played in that rotation. And from that perspective, we're still looking to see more coming out of the financial sector. However, obviously, bumpy roads and potentially idiosyncratic news.
So you certainly talking about this rotation that we've seen, and it sounds like investors have already repositioned to some extent for this value trade on the back of reopening hopes. Which sectors do you think still have the most to gain from a value versus growth perspective?
Yes, thank you. I think when you look at the sectors particularly, so I'll talk for Europe here, I would say that generally speaking, we tend to look at it also from an indices and country perspective. So in Europe tends to tilt more towards growth. So in Europe you'll be exposed to luxury goods, you'll be exposed to renewables, you'll be exposed to a number of cyclical of basically growth sectors. So we tend to really look at the UK as sort of having more of a tilt, generally speaking. So it's a nice hedge because you still have a bit of growth, but you're mostly exposed to that value rotation. So in terms of sectors where we see still a lot to go for there, we would really look at energy and financials as our key component, and the UK is very much exposed to that. So that's why we tend to recommend the UK as a nice hedge.
And what is going to be the catalyst for that trade? And a lot of people have talked about the need for more inflows into the UK market for this trade to really take off. And it feels as though a lot of the factors are sort of known already. So what's going to catalyze a further step up from here and further outperformance of the UK versus the Europe, perhaps even other markets around the world?
Well, I think when you look at the growth and when you look at the European growth at the moment, I mean, there's still form of uncertainties. Obviously, as we talk, and you've mentioned it at the beginning of the show, right? We have news of further lockdowns. We have news of vaccine delays. So all that news flow is obviously mudding the water a little bit. But the reality is investor will look through this and we look at the vaccine rollout. And obviously, obviously that's the big caveat, unless the vaccine doesn't work out, the vaccine is there and it's actually providing that sustainability. So what's different? For every essentially for the economic hit is smaller with each wave that comes back, and we know that the vaccine is coming. The economy has also adapted. It's something I'd like to flag. What's different this time with this new wave we're seeing in Europe is the economy has adapted. So actually, it's not as as impactful a wave as it used to be, and you've got the backdrop of the vaccine coming. So actually, you do not have that sort of EPS collapse that you could have. It's actually going to go back up.